right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here, and welcome to another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. I'm your host, Mark Ross, and with me this evening is my brother, Mr. Lee Jones. Lee, you are a career veteran, I should say, right?
Yes, sir.
You did your career there, man, and my hats off to you, brother. I salute you because I couldn't do it.
And
I
we can
did.
get into that too. We can,
Yeah, we could definitely get in that because
yeah,
bro, I did my 4 years and I was out. I
yeah,
tell you.
yeah.
And Mr. Jones, he also has a transitional program for veterans that are transitioning out of the military to become civilians, which is something that I really want to focus on. And he is a podcaster as well. So, Brother Lee, man, welcome to the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate being on here. Thank you so much. Thank you
Yes,
so
sir. Yes,
much.
sir.
Yeah.
So, man, let's get to the first things first.
Uh-oh.
What made you join the army?
Oh shoot. Uh,
Much less do
let's see.
26 years in it. So let's tap into that.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's kind of stupid when I think about it now, in hindsight, and that's the name of my podcast. So I got to plug that right. When I joined initially, I mean, there's a few reasons, but one of the reasons that I recall is I finished high school and I hated school. I
Mm,
didn't want to go to college, but I wanted to be a park ranger of all things, right?
Park Ranger.
And a park ranger. And and the requirements was either 2 years in the military or 2 years in college, right? So I chose 2 years in the military. That's how much I hated school at the time.
Right, right.
Now, this was back in 1990, so no internet, no Indeed,
Mm-hmm.
no, all of these different things that can help you get jobs when you transition out of the military. None of that existed.
Yes, sir.
And my first duty station was in Alaska.
Ooh.
So I did sign up for 2 years. I had a 2 year enlistment so I could meet the requirement needed for the park ranger that I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
But my first duty station was Alaska. And I didn't really have a plan. I was young. I didn't have a plan to transition out of the military from Alaska.
Right,
You know, there's no Indeed, there's none of that. So
right.
I reenlisted, and then I reenlisted, and I went to Maryland. And each place, honestly, you said you made it a career, hats off, and everything.
Yes, sir.
Each place, I mean, it has its challenges in the military. It has its highs, it has its challenges, and it just took, I don't know. I guess at the time it was time to reenlist. I just reenlisted.
You just said,
So,
yeah.
and you were funny before we got started. You were talking about Marine Corps
Hey, hey,
basic
hey,
training.
hey, listen. You see this? See this, Lee? I
Yeah, yeah,
wore this
yeah,
just,
yeah.
I wore this just for you today, bro.
Oh man. I had to wear my B more, so I didn't bring any army attire. I didn't bring no fatigues, anything like that on here. No, but what I really hated
Oh man.
in the army, what really made me want to get out a lot of times was the road marches. Because I came in, I don't know what your job was, your MOS, but
I was in
when I
supply.
I came, huh?
I was in supply.
Okay, I was in supply too. I think we did talk about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I think we did
I,
brief.
I I was in supply too, but I kept ending up in these combat units, infantry units, light
Yeah.
infantry units, right? And
Mhm.
so you know how it works. I mean, you're in the
Yeah.
Marines, so you definitely know how it works.
Yes.
And you gotta do the things that they do before they allow you to do the things that you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these 12-mile road marches we used to do on once a quarter when I was in Hawaii,
Mm.
and I hated it every time I got done. And I went to Fort Drum too, out in New York, and we did them once a quarter.
Okay.
And every time I was like, I am getting out. But then the road march is over with, the pain subsides, and then and then I end up staying in. So,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's rough mentally. Yeah. Yep.
So it's cool that yeah, I do remember with us talking about being in the same MOS
Mm-hmm.
because when I was in the Marines, I also spent like 2 years doing everything else accept my job.
Yeah.
So so for my first 4 years, I mean, I think I did maybe roughly a year and a half of my actual job.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
All the other time I was gone.
Yeah. Nah.
Gone, brother. Um,
I did my job, and it definitely did a lot of deployments and a lot of training exercises and stuff like that, especially early on.
mhm,
So I told you I was stationed in Hawaii. I didn't get the benefits of Hawaii because I was in a light infantry unit.
mm,
So a good percentage of the time I was either out training, I was deployed, or I was somewhere sleepy. You know. So yeah,
that is,
it wasn't all bad in Hawaii, but it was rough. It was rough.
oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
I get it. I get it. Uh,
yeah.
so you do your 26 years
Hmm.
and you get out.
Yeah.
What was, how was that transition from military life to civilian life for you? Because I can tell you, brother, I struggle. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of other people struggle, right? Because we're so conditioned to getting up early in the morning,
Hmm.
expecting to eat, expecting to go to work, expecting to maybe take a nap, like you say, duck off in the corner somewhere, take a
Yeah.
little nap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You expect to be busy sometimes. I mean, these are things that were programmed to us. I mean, even the 12-mile humps. I mean, the PT testing. I mean, all of that. It was programmed into us, so it was something that was just a part of us.
Yeah.
And to turn off the light switch to that and be introduced to something that's kind of foreign to us now, right?
Right.
I struggled, brother. I had a hard time. So I just wanted to hear from you. How was it for you going through that process?
I tell you what, mentally, just looking at what it would look like to transition out was hard mentally. Trying to
Mm-hmm.
grasp it, right? Trying to just figure out what's going to happen. So mentally, it was rough. So much that I really didn't want to let go of the job. Like we was doing missions and deployments all the way up. I
Mm-hmm.
think now you can start transitioning like 2 years out or at least a year and a half out. You can start with the transition process, right? Getting yourself educated and smart on things.
Mm-hmm.
I waited kind of like 3 months before I was going to leave, before I started, you know, really taking it seriously
Yeah.
and transitioning out. So I always tell people, when you're getting ready to get out, this is something I want to say. When you're getting ready to get out, you get yourself together, right? Because they're going to find somebody to replace you. You're not that important
Oh yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, right? You got to
Oh
take
yeah.
care of yourself. So,
Definitely. Definitely.
so definitely get your mind prepared.
Yes, sir.
So for me though, what I did was I did run into some people, and they introduced some programs that were available to people who were transitioning out of the military. They were free. All it really cost was your time, your
Mm-hmm.
commitment to that
Mm-hmm.
process. And it was a class. I think it was Cal Vet. Cal Vet. I always mess up the acronym, and I feel so bad. But it's like Cal Vet, and I would go every Monday for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Your spouse can go with you if you want, so everyone can have a part of this transition process, right, and get all this information together.
Mm-hmm.
And they walk you through a lot of things. But what they really did was they started to prepare your mind, and they started to kind of catch me up because I retired, so I was in for 26 years.
Yeah.
So I wasn't doing interviews and doing resumes or anything like that. You feel me? So
Yep.
this class was designed to help you get smart on things, get smart on how to strategically network, um, how to do your resume properly. What is it that you want to do? Like, so they had that star chart, and you just say, if you could do anything, what was it? What is it that you'd like to do? Don't matter what your MOS was. Doesn't matter what you did all the years that you were in the military. What is it that you want to do? And so going through this class was eye opening. And then it gave me an opportunity to meet other people who were invested in the success of the individuals who are transitioning out. Like they're betting on your success.
Mm-hmm.
And so they show up, they give you their blocks of instruction, and they're there. Like after hours, you can email them, you can give them a call. This one guy, he was a lawyer. He's a defense lawyer,
Okay.
and he ended up hating his job because he was getting bad people off, right? And so
Oh
he
man.
didn't necessarily like his job. So
Yeah.
he let that career go, and he became an advocate for transitioning service men and women. And he's the one that wrote my resume. I thought it looked like crap. Like I had one that was all aesthetically pleasing and everything, but it missed the meat. Like yeah, I had a plate full of potatoes and beans, but I didn't have no steak on there, and he put the steak in there,
Right.
and that's when I started getting calls. So just being introduced to these people, these organizations that are invested in in your success was very beneficial for me, and it made it a lot easier than it would have been if I hadn't met them. You feel me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So I got out in October. I had 3 months, whatever that's called. I forgot now. That leave that's built up. So I was still getting paid until December of
Okay.
that year, and then in January, I actually had an interview where I was offered a job, and I started in February. So I really didn't have a lot of time, away from it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I asked that question is
Mm-hmm.
because when I got out, I went straight to college. And like you,
Mm-hmm.
I went to the military for the same reason. I,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ready to go to college at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't want to stay in Milwaukee necessarily either because I really didn't have a path,
Yeah.
right? I really didn't know
Yeah.
what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wasn't going to college and I don't want to stay in Milwaukee. So
Yeah. I feel you.
so
Now I
yeah,
didn't want to go to Alaska, but
but
I get
hey,
it.
well, I ended up going to North Carolina, so I think
Yeah.
that was a good payoff. But man,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I went to school. I ended up finding a job right away. It was part time at the time. It was part time because I wanted to spend more time focusing on classes.
Yeah.
But a few months afterwards, that's when the PTSD symptoms started to
Mm,
present itself, and
yeah.
that's when things started to go downhill, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, but that's why I
Yeah.
asked the question of the transitioning process. How was that for you? Because I know for me and for many others,
Mhm.
it wasn't easy.
I tell you what, I was blessed. You feel me? And a lot of people were, but I was blessed, and I know it, and I understand that. And you know, I say that because you can talk about PTSD and everything, like being deployed so many times. Being out in war in peacekeeping operations. I was protected. I was protected from some of the mess and the dangers that a lot of other, my fellow service men and women experienced.
Mm,
And so I don't have a truly traumatic event, at least anything that stuck with me. Now, obviously, I've seen stuff and things happen, right? But nothing that really stuck with me and has given me problems to this point. And so I always say I'm blessed.
mm,
But in even saying that, I understand like when we go out there, you don't know what you're going to run into.
indeed.
I know when I went to Iraq, we came right after the Marines went and ran, tore things up.
Yeah,
You feel me?
so to
So I
speak.
know your position. I know the Marines' position
Mm,
in dealing with stuff. So I'm very aware and what's the word I'm looking for? Of of the issues, with PTSD and very cognizant and empathetic and supportive and hopeful. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
For our service members and for the things that you may have seen and the things that you did see, right? Because I don't know, um, but I'm pretty sure it was rough at times.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
But my rough patches weren't necessarily from being overseas because I,
Hmm.
I didn't go to Desert Storm or Desert
Okay.
Shield. I did other stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it wasn't as it wasn't as dangerous, but it was still tense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. Oh,
It was
yeah,
it
yeah,
was
I
still
get it.
tense,
Yeah.
and it did leave a mark on me and my platoon. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Um, and staying on the military, brother
Mm-hmm.
Lee, uh, how was your experience of working in leadership positions during your military tenure?
I mean, it was fine. Um, you get a bunch of leaders, I mean, throughout your career, obviously, and then you become a leader,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
based off the Army philosophy, everyone's a leader, right? Even a private.
Yeah,
But you become a leader of men. For me, I was in light infantry units. Even though I was supply, like I was platoon sergeant. So it's crazy, right? But
yeah,
it was good because you get an opportunity in a controlled environment, meaning we know the structure of how the Army and the Marines work, the rank structure. I know that if I'm an E5, the E6 outranks me.
right.
And I basically gotta follow his orders or her orders.
There you go.
It's that simple,
That's simple. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what happens is you get an opportunity to learn from a whole lot of different leadership styles, just how people get motivate people to do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I pay attention to those things, right?
yeah.
And initially, you try to get the good stuff, you know,
Shooting
try
me
to weed
bones.
away the bad stuff,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then you try to develop your own style. So that was my experience. And for me, I was never really, in a position where I was like, that type of leader.
Mm-hmm.
I was more of a reasonable leader.
Yeah.
And I would tell my people, look, I'm gonna tell you what to do. You figure out how to do it.
Mm.
I'm not gonna micromanage you,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as we can keep that going, then we're good.
Yep.
But sometimes I'm gonna say, I need you to do this, and I need you to do it one, two, three, four, five, exactly like that.
Yes.
And I don't need you to ask me questions
Mm-hmm.
because it's time sensitive. You feel me?
Yep.
So it worked. It worked really good for me anyway,
Okay.
because people bought in. They understood I wasn't treating them like trash. I treated a private just like I would treat a major or colonel.
There you go.
As far as the mental, obviously I gotta say sir and all that, but you feel
Yep.
what I'm saying.
Yep. I
Yeah.
do. Totally. Totally. Respect goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Respect goes a long way, and people will do more for you if they respect
Yeah.
you for
Yeah.
sure, and that's proven. So, with all that being said, what lessons did you learn during your time in the military, brother?
Oh, I learned a lot. I
What stood?
remember one. I remember one. I was in Iraq, and this is a silly one, but it was a big one. It was hot, and we were redeploying back. So we were out. We had all these Connexes, these C Connexes loaded up with inventory. So we had to go through and inventory everything we had, make sure we had what we took over there, and then whatever we're bringing back, blah blah blah. So we had to go through this, but it was super hot. So we had to physically do that, but then we also had I don't know, a building with air conditioning in it. And that's where you did the paperwork, you're checking it off and everything. So I remember I had a good guy. He was my clerk. He was an E5 at the time. And I remember it was a time and I felt bad about it using my rank. And I told him to go out, in the heat. And and it was selfishly because it was hot. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to be out there. And I sent him out there. And he checked me on it. He checked me on it right away. And I was like, you're right. Like it was a good lesson because that was the trust that was there. Light infantry, there's a lot of trust that goes around, right? Because
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
in it. You're in it when you're out
yeah.
there.
And
And
you,
one of the things, yeah, one of the things was if you're, if you slacking, if you tripping, tell me, right? And then I'll have to look in the mirror and figure that out. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, you know what? Come on, let's get out there. Because if
mm-hmm,
we both out there doing this thing, we can get it done a lot quicker.
indeed,
And he's one of my really, really, really good friends, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was some added trust there. And he checked me, and I was like, you know what, you absolutely right.
Mm.
So that was a good lesson because you always say, hey, I wouldn't ask you to do anything I wouldn't be willing to do.
Yep. Yep.
And now that was a lie because I wasn't willing to go out in that heat, right? So I had to check myself. It was hot, man. I'm like, it's like 110 degrees out there.
You're in
So
California, man.
true, but I'm in California after that. That's probably why I'm able to survive here because I went to Iraq first.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Man,
So
that's crazy.
no,
That's
but that was really it. I mean, that's a simple one, but it was impactful. Probably because it was a good friend, soldier. He checked me, and I was like, yeah, you know what? That's a good lesson. So yeah,
mm-hmm. That's good.
and there's a lot of them. Trust me.
That's good. So,
Yeah.
you service connected, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, 100%.
Yes.
Good for you, man. Good
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
So,
You got to work
during our
for
initial conversation, you
Uh-huh.
way back when,
Yeah. Yes.
you mentioned that you had this program that helps veterans transition from that you help veterans transition
Yeah.
from military to civilian life. How did
Yeah.
that come about, and what? Tell me about the structure of this program,
All
because
right. So let
when you told me about it, man, I was digging it. So break it off for me, man.
All
Talk about
right, so you digging it. So obviously I didn't articulate it properly because what it was the program that I talked about a little bit earlier, right? So that's one.
it.
So that was the one, and then what happened was there were I think towards the end of the program there was an opportunity for people to come up, and they're called the alumni or whatever, right? So the alumni from the class, and these were individuals who successfully transitioned from the military, and they would get up, they would get to get up in front of the class and say, "Hey, I was sitting right where you were a few months ago, and now I've successfully transitioned out of the military.
Right.
This is what you can expect, right?" And I was like, "Man, that seems so far away. It seems so far fetched. I don't see myself transitioning and being in that position." But I wanted to be, I wanted to be that person that was on that alumni board and talk about my experiences. So when I did successfully transition out, I did do that. I went back and I did it a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And to see, and I imagine that I look the same way looking up to these individuals who are transitioned, to see their faces and how you had their full attention on a story that you're giving them, right? Your truth about how your transition was and the things that you failed in and the things that you successfully did. It felt good to be able to get back, because I know mentally I was all over the place. Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? I'm getting tingly now just thinking about it. But when I went through that class, you go through the steps and you just focus in. Like they give you simple things, you focus in, you get to a point, you go out, you do your interviews, you get a job, right? You get a career, a second career, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And and I owe a lot to that program. Now we have a lot. You get a lot of information, you get a lot of knowledge, you get a lot of skills and savvy and stuff like that from your time in the military as well. But then you got to put all that together.
Mm-hmm.
And they show you how to put it all together and how to package it and how to present yourself properly so that people are willing to, take a chance with the
Yeah.
veterans. So that was that. And then, and you refresh my memory on this. Then I wasn't in a position to do that as much as I wanted to. And I felt I had more to say
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to give more examples. And that's why you talked about the podcast earlier. That's why me and a friend of mine, Eric Gonzalez, we started Hindsight the podcast. And the initial structure of that podcast was veterans who transitioned successfully from the military. And we like to get individuals who say you were, say infantry. Now he's a comedian. She's an operations sergeant. Now she's in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
This one guy, he was NCIS. Now he's a chef. Having these different things, like you're not
Really?
limited to what it is that you did in the military. And
Wow.
so finding these cases just further encourages and just opens your mind like, oh, when they ask me what is it that I want to do when I was in that class, and you start like you really can go out and do it. And there are a lot of programs that help you prepare to get to that step to bridge that gap
Mm,
in a sense, you
mm,
know. So that's
mhm.
why I always talk about Calvet. Like that program was phenomenal, and you know, there's a ton of programs out there for all veterans. And you asked me, was service connected?
Yes.
Anybody out here watching? Have you heard the term VSO? The VSO, Veteran Service Organization, something like that. I don't know what it stands for actually.
Yes, sir.
But if you go in and you type in Google VSO and in your area, it'll tell you where your local VSO office is at.
Mm, yep.
When I was doing my service disability, what is it called? Rating,
Yeah.
I talked to them.
Comp and pen.
They they went through everything. They filled out the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
They send it to the people who are like, if you do it, you're gonna send it somewhere. But
Yep.
they send it directly to the people who are gonna take action on your packet.
Mm-hmm.
And so my rating came so much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
When we went, and why we, me and my wife were just talking about the other day, I went to the VSO to get my 100%, you know, disability.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think it'd take years. It took like a few months, you
Mm.
know, just having those people. Bottom line is, I don't need to tell you all that VSO, Victor Sierra Oscar.
Yep.
Make sure you look that up
Yep.
when you're getting ready to go for your service ratings. You 100% too, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And it's it's funny that you mentioned about how quick you got it, because I know some brothers that are a year in,
Hmm.
2 years in, and they're still fighting their case,
Yeah,
you know. And it's I always remind people that are still fighting the good fight
yeah,
to never give up,
yeah.
because I have encountered people who told me, man, I just got tired of waiting. I
Yep.
just got tired of them telling me no. It's like, well, find a way for them to say yes.
I know. Get a
Do the
VSO.
research.
Contact your VSO.
You know what I'm saying? Or
They
go
gonna
to
get.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
did. There was one guy. I'm not going to mention who he is, but I when I got my hands on him, at
Mm-hmm.
the time he was rated at 30%.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's at 80, trying to go for 100.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
man, so I'm not saying that to brag or anything like that at all.
No.
That's not how I flow. But I'm saying that to say this: when you encounter brothers and sisters, that served,
Mm-hmm.
that feel exhausted,
Mm-hmm.
I have to remind them that's their job to tell you no. It's their
Yeah,
job to find a crack in your presentation, if you will.
yeah, yeah.
So that's why we need to go to our VSOs,
Mm-hmm.
our American Legion, or whatever VSO
Yeah,
organization that
yeah.
you feel comfortable with.
Yep.
DVA, I don't care.
It's a
When you
lot of
need to
them.
go to
Yeah,
one of them, and like you said, they will do everything. You
yeah,
just tell them what you need done.
yeah. That's it.
They got you.
That's
They
it.
got you. And if somebody says no, oh, we can just do an appeal.
That's it.
It-
And it really upsets me when you have people who don't believe that they deserve it.
oh,
You know,
oh, oh.
and I mentioned earlier that I was introduced to some people. We had a great briefing. I can't remember the young lady's name, it was too many years ago, but they gave a briefing and they said, "Look, you know, you guys, there's a bunch of guys in the room. You guys are tough, right? And you fight through it. You take Motrin, you get it done. Now you're transitioning out the military.
Hmm.
You got to change your whole mental. You got to tell them everything that's wrong with you. You got to get it documented and let them know everything that's wrong with you.
Everything.
Any injury, anything that you had, And another thing, um, when I got out, I went to some. I was going through. It was out in California, out in Barstow area. Um, anyway, I was transitioned out of there, and it was they had a bunch of stations, that you got to go through, get stuff signed off. And it was one. It was real quick. They was like, "Hey, do you want your military records in PDF?" If you in the military right now, somebody asks you that question, absolutely say yes
quickly.
quickly, because when I got that email with that PDF, it looked like a novel.
Mm,
It had a cover page. It had a table of contents by year, by ailment, it had everything, and
hmm.
that makes it so easy to get qualified. It makes
Yeah.
it so easy for it to be quantified.
Hmm.
What you're saying is really true. I did have this injury. I did go to sick call that day. I
Yeah.
did fall off this truck or whatever it is.
Hmm.
So anyway, we could talk about that all day. But
Yeah.
man, just the bottom line. Oh, don't
Yeah.
don't. You deserve it.
You deserve it. And it really it saddens me, Lee, when I encounter people who, oh, I don't need it.
Mm,
Well, what? Like, what you
mm,
mean? Well, I'm working a good job. I'm like, it's not about that.
mm,
We're past that.
mm.
We're talking about you being injured and you're still going through the residuals from your injury,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
you have the nerve to sit here and tell me that you don't deserve it? What? Like, can you hear what you just said? Does make that make sense to me?
You know what? You know what they said to make it make sense? Not them, but the people that was giving the briefing.
Mm.
You're only gonna get older, and it's gonna get
It's
worse.
gonna get worse.
It's gonna be persistent, and it's gonna always be there. So don't think about how you feel right now, because
Mm.
you still whore. You still the man. You still the woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
20 years in, you're gonna wish you took it. Now you gotta fight to get those benefits from so long ago.
Yep.
It's just do it. You're
And
only getting older.
to add injury, add insult to injury, that no could be permanent
Yeah.
because you can't fight it because you should have fought it
Hmm.
then.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
to anybody that's listening to this, if nothing else, go to a VSO, get linked up with somebody, and tell
Hmm.
them everything.
Yeah.
Tell them everything. And brotherly, I always tell people that I encounter the same thing that I just said. When you go to somewhere like the American Legion, the
Yeah.
DAB, I said, tell them everything
Hmm.
from the time you set foot in boot camp to the last day. If you got hurt at any time,
Yeah.
if you went to the hospital and they put it on their records, it's
Hmm.
on their freaking record.
That's why you want that file, that PDF file. Because who is it? I think it's the Air. Is it the Air Force or the Navy? I think it's the Navy. The Navy, they got all your stuff. You don't even know. Like, I don't care what service you in, the Navy got all your stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where they're gonna give you that PDF from. And it
Yeah.
has everything. It makes it so much easier for them to go ahead and say, okay, approved.
Yeah. And
Anyway,
it's funny because I asked for my records and I saw things in it that I didn't even remember doing.
e- exactly.
I'm like, oh, I got this award. I'm like, oh shit! Like, wow. All right.
I got I got my little book over there. I got all my stuff in
Yeah, man. I got a big old stack.
it. Yeah, yeah, I got it. I got it.
Man.
I take advantage of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
Yeah.
let me
You know another good lesson
yes, yes.
that was learned early in my career. All these are really simple ones, right? But it's a mental thing.
Mm,
And I remember, and I don't know how the Marines do it. So when you're going through basic training, they look for anything to discipline you, right? Because it's basically to break you down.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And one of the things they used to make you say, it seems so ridiculous when you're doing it at the time, but it's really shaping your mental. They just be
Mm,
like, get down there, push, right? Do push ups, do sit
mhm.
ups, go down, up, go, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get done, they be like, all right, get up. And the one thing, especially with push-ups, more so than the whole, just getting you tore up. They would say you'd have to get up, get a position of attention.
Mhm.
Thank you, drill sergeant, for strengthening my mind and my body. That's so stupid and so simple,
Mm.
but it meant so much, right? Because later on, now my mental when I'm working out was push, push. You can dig deeper. You can dig deeper because now I'm instilling what they put in me,
Mm.
as far as the workout. Because oh, dude, I was not working out before I went in the military at all.
No.
At all. I mean, I played sports, but I wasn't in the gym like that.
Yeah,
And so
that's
them
interesting.
instilling that in you, now you can go to the gym and you can push yourself because you're mentally strong. Because hey, now I'm thanking myself, hey Lee, thanks. Thanks for strengthening my body. Thanks, Drill Sergeant, for strengthening my mind a few years ago. You know,
Mhm.
now I'm better. And then that translates into a whole lot of other stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that little silly thank you, Drill Sergeant, for strengthening my mind and my body. Like
Wow.
that was powerful.
That's
You know?
definitely a lesson in perspective
Yeah. Yeah,
because I
absolutely.
don't think a lot of us had that perspective back
I
then.
didn't have it back then. Not in basic.
No.
Not in they make you say it, right? They're
No.
conditioning you.
No.
So at the time, I couldn't stand the drill sergeant.
No.
I was like, "F you, get out of here! I'm sick of this crap. I'm
We,
leaving." But whatever
we
you're
didn't have
thinking at the time.
we didn't have to say that in Marine Corps boot camp.
Yeah, 'cause they just beat y'all
They
down.
just
That's
beat us
all.
up.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
and
They
that's a
tried
whole
to.
story. Um, I wanted to ask you
Yeah, what's up?
from from the program standpoint, have you encountered anyone that were going through some mental health issues, and how did you help that person or people in
Yeah,
regards to
man.
the transition?
In a lot of things, I tell you another thing. One thing that we learned. This is right here at Camp Pendleton as well. So we started going through the different trainings, right? One thing they taught us, like if I walk by you in the morning, I'm like, hey, what's going on? How you doing today? A lot of times we say, how are we doing today? Because that's just like on cruise control. That's just like what you do. And you just keep on walking, you ain't really paying attention. But when you say it, mean it, stop, have a conversation, be in the moment. You know what I'm saying? Because that could be that opportunity. I
Mm.
went to this one, that could be that opportunity to be there for someone. I remember at this one event, this guy, it was last year, he was what is it called? The Daisy Walk. And there was some gentlemen that came up. And the Daisy Walk is a program where you go out in the communities and you walk and you raise money for these organizations that bring awareness and help veterans to prevent suicide. It's like suicide prevention.
Okay.
And this one guy, he came in and he saw this guy and he had a meeting. And so he walked in, he's like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? He was like, I'm fine. He said he looked a little down, but he didn't pay attention because he was focused. I got to go to the meeting.
Yeah.
And so when he was in the meeting, he heard a gunshot and that guy killed himself. And he said he don't know if he could have saved him or not, or stopped and had a conversation and been there for him in that moment, and that haunts him, to this
Mm.
day.
I'm sure
And
it
he
does.
just really encouraged, like when you there, just say and be in the moment, even if it's for a brief moment, and you can pick up on certain things, right? And you could be that person that smiles. You see that on commercials a lot. A smile can change a lot of things.
Yeah,
I
man.
seen this comedian the other day. He was talking about that.
Yeah.
How just being nice to somebody at a moment when they're really about to go, they're done. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
just be nice to them at that moment. It could mean everything.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
just those little things that they talked about. Now, me specifically,
Mhm.
I have not been aware of someone who was really going through it.
Mhm.
I know people who have been through it, and I know that they have PTSD, and I know that I'm always in a moment, you know, when I'm dealing with them, when I'm
Mhm.
talking to
Mhm.
them. So that's just my part, and hopefully, a lot of other people are as well, and that's why they're still here battling, battling their demons. So yeah,
I appreciate I appreciate that and I respect that.
yeah.
Um, real quick, and I know we talked about this before the
What's
show.
up?
Um,
Yeah.
you're in the process of writing a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is the book about, or what is the premise of the book?
Yeah. The book is about just figuring out who you are. Right. I don't have a working title for it right now. I talked to you about it before we
Yep,
got started.
yep.
But it's just a series of questions goes through, and you just basically answer one question a day. It's 30 questions, so you get 1 day break on the 31 days, months. And you can go through it as much as you want. But what it does is it gives you an opportunity to sit down and be truthful with yourself and figure out who is it? Who am I?
Mhm,
Right? What are my values? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What is it that I love to do? What is it that makes me feel really good? And the thing is to kind of pull away at the mess that's in the forefront of your mind about who you are,
mhm,
right? Because typically you are who you think other people think you are, or you play a part in being something for somebody else and not for yourself.
mm,
And you lose the perspective of who you are. You go into work, you're different than when you talk to your parents, than when you talk to your friends, than when you talk to the guy at the car dealership, than when you talk to all these different people in these different scenarios and these different events. And it becomes confusing at times to figure out who it is that you actually are.
mm,
So this is almost like a reset. It's an opportunity to sit down and really explore who you are. Um, so that's the concept. Now that's part one, who you are.
mhm,
Now what it's designed to do is to go into the next level. Who do you want to be? Right? Who do you want to be? So in order to understand who you want to be, you need to know who you are. And why is that? Because you need to figure out what the gaps are between who you are and who you want to be. And now you can make a plan on how to achieve who you want to be. Set those goals,
mhm,
those small goals, right? And it also helps you to make good decisions. So if you know you want to be, I don't know, a nuclear scientist or something, right? And you haven't gone to school, okay, I ain't going to this basketball game or whatever. I'm saving my money and put it towards school because I need to know this stuff in order to be this thing.
mhm,
It just helps you. And obviously, that's just a small part of who you want to be. That's just a thing that you want to do. It's not really who you are. You may want to be in a position to be a servant leader or to help people. Like people are just drawn to be police or people are
mm,
drawn to be in the military. You
mhm,
know, that's who you are because you want to help people. You want to have a noble cause, right? That's who you are at your core.
mhm,
So, what kind of careers and jobs and skills and things like that can you harness from that desire, your true self, that will make you feel um, accomplished? It makes you feel good about what you did that day. What is that thing? Because a lot of times we just do things to get through the day, right? I work this job because I got to pay the bills.
mhm.
But does it bring you fulfillment?
Nope.
Maybe. I don't know,
Yeah,
right? You got to answer that for yourself.
indeed.
So that's the thing, right? So who you are, who you want to be, and then the final chapter is how you're going to get there. So that's the concept.
Mm, mm. I'll say this too. You could
Mhm.
probably use those same principles with your transitional program. You can ask the guys, those same particular questions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
feel free to
Absolutely. I mean, it applies to your whole entire life,
yeah,
So whatever the scenario is, it
yeah,
applies.
yeah, indeed.
So absolutely.
Yes, sir. So, what's next for you in your journey, Lee? Because you've done a lot, but I see in you that you got more in the tank. So, what's
In the tank.
you got? I think you got a little bit more in the
Yeah.
tank, bro. So, what's
Yeah.
next for you in your journey, brother?
I tell you what, the biggest thing right now that I'm focusing on is just getting that book done. Right, getting that book done. Right now on Hindsight the podcast, I'm putting together a Black History Month Blitz. So it's
Mm,
all black and brown people
yes, sir.
through the month of February. I typically do one episode a week on Mondays. I'm doing Mondays and Thursdays, so twice the stories, twice the inspiration. That's the catchphrase, right? So be on the lookout for that. And then the final, I got this Be More right here, and that kind of goes along with one of those final stages in the figuring out who you are, and Be More. One, I'm from Baltimore, right? So if anybody's from Baltimore, they know be more,
Mm,
Baltimore, right?
mhm,
But it's also be more attentive, be more direct, be more whatever it is that you need to be more of, right? Not that you're not enough, but you can always be more.
mm,
You feel me? Be more educated, be more rich, whatever that be more is, right? So just tap into that and figure out what it is, and then think about what it is that I need to do to be more. That's
mm.
the whole concept. So just raising weight. Let me slow down. Raising awareness on that, and just kind of putting that out in the universe as well. So, but biggest thing right now is get that book done. I need to discipline myself to sit down and put pen to paper. So that's been a challenge. But I'm really close. I'm really close.
Sound like you got the blueprint together, and it sound
Yeah,
like
I got a lot of words too. So the blueprint is definitely there, but it's a lot of words in there too.
that's what's up, man. That's what's up.
Yeah, yeah, I
Uh,
appreciate it.
how can people contact you, Lee?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's I changed it. Oh, I'm Lee Jones. So I'm Lee Jones one is on Instagram, and that's really going to give you the podcast, shows you the guest that's coming up. And on YouTube, the podcast is there on youtube.com at I'm Lee Jones. So that's easy. And then also got a website, imleejones.com as well. So real simple. And you can find me on LinkedIn. If anyone has a question about, especially veterans, I got a lot of veteran friends on LinkedIn, and we connect and try to support each other when necessary, whether it be getting jobs or, what type of program is available for such thing. That's a great community on LinkedIn. So you can hit me up on there, Lee Jones, just Lee Jones. Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of Lee Jones, it has been quite the pleasure having you on my podcast and taking
Oh,
a
it's
minute.
been my pleasure. Thank
So,
you so much. And he
yeah,
didn't tell you I made him wait. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
I
ladies
made
and
him wait a
gentlemen,
few hours, so I'm super
I was
late,
like,
and
my
I
man was
appreciate it.
like,
I appreciate you being patient with me, brother. I really do.
oh man, yeah, yeah, yeah. When you send me an email like, can we do it later? I'm like, okay, okay, bro, we can do this, man. We can do this. So
Yeah,
my wife,
yeah,
I'm like, okay, it's back on.
yeah. Yeah, that was my
We're back
bad. My
on.
bad.
So yeah,
Yeah,
get
this
ready.
was good. This was good. I'm glad we made it happen.
Yeah, me too, me too, my brother. And we have our information, our contact information.
Hmm.
So please feel free to text me, call me. You know what I'm saying? We'll chop it up.
Likewise, likewise,
Uh,
likewise.
I
I,
do.
I, I expect it.
Yes, yes. And maybe I can help in whatever way I can help. Hey, I, I'm here. You know.
All right, I heard it, and everybody else watching, you heard that
Hey,
too. So
all
when I
right,
reach
guys.
out and call, I like a challenge. So I'm gonna find something that you
Yeah,
can help me out with.
man, I'm cool with that. The more
Hey,
exposure,
I know one thing that I am thinking about. You talk about it in the future. I am going to set up a military or a veterans panel discussion. I don't know the topic right now, but I like to cordially invite you right now. And hopefully you say yeah right now, and then I'll just hit
yes,
you up when the time comes. My man, there you go.
I got
So
you,
that's
brother.
what I can have you help me with.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'll look forward to get more information as get it together. So yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Uh, keep in touch with me, brother,
Okay.
and let me know what's up, man.
Alrighty.
All right. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen. Thank you, Brother Lee Jones, for taking the time to rap with your boy. And remember, guys, self care is important. So please make your mental health and your physical health a priority every day and do it first. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you have a good night. Brother Lee, you have a good night too.
All right. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Peace.
All right.